So a couple of weeks ago, we sat down, we had this conversation. What's going to happen between the hard and soft data? Are they going to converge, or should we actually be looking at the soft data? And the conclusion we came to is we're not completely dismissing the soft data, but what we realized is after the presidential election cycle, we should be looking at the betting markets, placing more weight on the betting markets. And the betting markets, or the prediction markets, I should say, are where we're getting our quote unquote soft data. And it's telling you a much different story on inflation, on recession, so on and so forth. So we discount significantly the soft data. We watch the hard data like a hawk every day. And when we want sentiment soft data, we're either talking to clients or we're looking at the prediction markets.
Talk a bit more about that. I'm very curious of how someone in your position approaches that world, which I think is a novel one or a new one to a lot of people. How do you make good use of the prediction markets?
Well, you're talking to a guy that when was 7 years old was reading the racing forms to his grandfathers. So I've been involved in these types of markets for a while, and I think there's a lot of information in these markets, and we saw that during the presidential election cycle. And what we do is we're just always looking for that signal. We're always looking for information, and there's information there. When we start to deconstruct how the surveys are done, we get less confidence on the soft data. And while people look at it, and we have to think about it, and we have to react to it, we're just not putting a whole lot of weight on it. And at the end of the day, we're talking to our economists, we're talking to companies, we're going through transcripts. We're trying to break our thesis every day, and we're just having a hard time doing that.
How do you overlay the technology view forward and productivity forward onto a persistency of corporate earnings? To me, it's underestimated. Am I right?
I think so. I was around in the late 90s, and I remember what was happening there.
Way back. Watch yourself, youngster. John, help me here.
And the comparison, it's not a comparison between today and back then. Back then, you had very levered companies. I'll throw out some goodies: WorldCom, Quest, Global Crossing, Level 3.
I own them all, thank you.
God bless you. But today, you have the hyperscalers, the AWS, the Microsofts, the Metas, the Googles of the world. These are companies that don't need to go to the capital markets and fund themselves, right? Furthermore, if you look at the technology, what we were doing is we were laying a dumb technology in the ground, fiber optic cable, which did not become obsolete for a good decade plus. Today, what we have is really, and I'm using the phrase that Jensen used, we have AI factories. You have the foundation, and on top of that, you have the innovation, and it's a very nice symbiotic relationship.
A joy. Chris Harvey with us with Wells Fargo. We continue as Chief US Equity Strategist here. We do this at 8:09 here with futures improving. Harvey lifting the market.
Yes,
futures negative 18, now negative 9. The VIX nicely under 20, 18.52. Dollar churning a little bit on DXY, a little bit of dollar strength, fractional, I'll call it, over the last 2 days. David Gura in for Paul Sweeney. David?
Chris, I want to ask you about AI. I don't think we've talked too much about NVIDIA yet. You mentioned it just a moment ago. We had this news this morning that Meta is going to contract for nuclear power with Constellation. You have this kind of picks and shovels portfolio when it comes to AI. So these are companies that are kind of ancillary maybe to the big ones that we talk a lot about. Where do you see growth there? So it's not as if we've turned the page here from that last chapter. This one, the AI story continues.
Right.
What's interesting to you about the sector today? Where do you see opportunity besides the big names, the handful of big names we talk so much about?
I think the biggest near-term issue is the AI Diffusion Act. The AI Diffusion Act has been mitigated. So now what you can do is you can export that technology. And what I think is Jensen is probably the new Tim Cook. It looks like he has the ear of the administration. And what they're realizing is we do need to be that base level of AI. We do need to export it. We do need U.S. technology all throughout the world, because if we don't, somebody else will step in. That somebody else is probably China. And so I think the most important thing is the mitigation of the AI diffusion index, because now we can export, we can become that base layer. But this is a very different technology than what we saw in the late 90s. And we're still, I would say, in the mid-innings for this. There's a lot more to do. The computational power that you need, the actual power that you need is hard to comprehend.